Her company scheduled me. That was the first red flag. I wasn't invited to the party. I was listed. Mallory forwarded me a PDF itinerary titled Winter Sparkle, Personnel, and Plus Ones. My name wasn't even typed out properly. It said Waylon next to hers. I stared at it for a while, like it might correct itself if I blinked enough. Right beneath that, in parentheses, dress appropriately. Please no logos or trade swear. I had to Google trade swear. That's when I realized I wasn't coming as her fiancé. I was coming as her prop. A placeholder for stability. A body she could introduce, briefly joke about, and pivot away from before anyone asked me what I actually did for a living. Mallory worked in executive brand optimization. That's a job, apparently. Her colleagues used phrases like aesthetically scalable synergy and hyper-narrative alignment. I fix rooftop chillers in sub-zero temperatures while raccoons threaten to pee on my boots. Our worlds don't orbit the same sun. She always said she admired authenticity, but only in private. In public, she curated me like a lifestyle accessory. Casual enough to look humble. Cleaned up enough to not embarrass her. I almost didn't go. I stared at the RSVP screen for hours. I'd already told her once that I felt out of place at these things, and she gave me a look like I'd suggested we deep fry a child. So I clicked attending. Not because I wanted to, but because I was tired of being difficult. I spent the next 3 days doing everything she asked. Got a haircut, shaved the scruff, even bought the beige coat she said made me look less industrial. I didn't ask what that meant. I already knew. The night of the party, I parked 2 blocks away because valet made me nervous. I watched myself walk toward the glass building in the reflection of store windows, wondering if this was who I was becoming. A man who squints at himself in a beige coat and wonders if he's disappearing. The elevator smelled like bergamot and fear. Upstairs was another universe. Ambient jazz, ice sculptures shaped like phoenixes, and a champagne bar called Physiology. Someone handed me a drink I couldn't pronounce, and I scanned the crowd until I found her. Mallory, radiant in an emerald dress that looked like it cost more than my truck. She was already laughing at something. Someone. I stepped toward her, and then I heard it. My name. My job. Her voice. A punchline. That moment, it didn't feel real. It felt like I'd slipped into someone else's humiliation. But it was mine. All mine. And I hadn't even said a word yet. That part's coming. She was standing next to some guy with sharp cheekbones and no socks. I remember that detail for some reason. No socks, just loafers and that smug finance sector posture, like he hadn't been told no since puberty. He was holding a martini and laughing, and Mallory had her hand lightly resting on his forearm. Not mine. His. I was maybe 10 feet away when I heard it. He said, "So what does your fiancé do? Is he in consulting too?" He said it like he assumed, because of course he did. That was the kind of room where everyone was something in tech or finance or marketing with a title so vague it could mean anything or nothing. Mallory didn't hesitate. "Oh, Waylon," she said, with a little tilt of her head and a smirk that hit harder than a slap. "He's kind of adorable. He works with, like, pipes and fans. He's a, what do you call it?" She looked up for a second, pretending to search for the word. "Oh right, refrigeration mechanic. Like, walk-in freezers and stuff. Ice boxes. Very old school." There was laughter. Not the cruel, loud kind. The worst kind, polite, dismissive, controlled. The kind that says, "Thank you for confirming he's not one of us." I froze. My body literally stalled. For a second, I thought maybe I misheard her. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. So I took a step forward. She saw me, caught my eyes, and for a flicker of a moment, I thought she looked ashamed. But then she said one more thing. She added, "It's cute though. He's like a tradesman with a heart. Salt of the earth. My little blue-collar teddy bear." The group laughed again, and that was it. That was the moment I stopped being a person in that room and became a prop, a mascot, a running joke. A man reduced to a novelty, not for what I said or did, but for what I was. I turned around and walked straight to the balcony, trying to breathe. The air was cold, sharper than I expected. It cut through the fake warmth of the party like a blade. I stood there, gripping the rail, my hands trembling, not from the wind, but from whatever was building inside my chest. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed it. The little corrections, the patronizing smiles, the way she told me to speak a little slower around her boss or not bring up job sites because they might not relate. I had accepted being the outsider because I thought love made you brave. I thought she saw something in me no one else could. But that night, I realized she only loved me when I was silent and out of focus. Like background furniture. Rugged decor. I was done being furniture. I walked back inside, heart pounding, vision tunneling like I was diving underwater. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have some grand idea of what to say. But I knew one thing. I wasn't leaving that rooftop with her ring still on her finger. What happened next? It shocked every person in that room, including me. And Mallory? She didn't see it coming. I didn't storm across the room. I didn't raise my voice. There was no dramatic music playing in the background. But the moment still cracked open the night like thunder. People would later describe it as tense or awkward. But for me, it was pure clarity. The kind of cold, calm knowing that comes right before the ground gives way. When I walked back inside, Mallory was still standing with that group, still holding her glass of champagne like it was part of her anatomy. She was laughing again, this time about something her coworker said. I watched her closely, her face lit up in performance mode, all polished elegance and curated charisma. And for the first time since we'd met, I didn't feel lucky to be with her. I felt embarrassed that I ever was. I stepped up behind her. She didn't notice until one of her friends glanced past her shoulder and did a double take. Mallory turned, still smiling, like I was a puppy that wandered into the middle of a business meeting. "There you are," she said brightly, brushing non-existent lint off my lapel like she was trying to reassert control. "I was just telling them about." "No," I said, cutting her off. Not loudly, not angrily, just enough that it stunned her into silence. I looked at the people around her, all of them watching, sensing something had shifted but not sure where it was going. "I'm not your blue-collar teddy bear," I said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "I'm not your punchline, your aesthetic contrast, or your backup story when you need to prove you're well-rounded. I'm the man who was going to marry you, and I'm the man walking away from that mistake right now." Her smile twitched. She opened her mouth, but I wasn't finished. "You talk about me like I'm a character in a show you're pitching. You strip the respect from what I do and turn it into some quirky footnote to make your life look more interesting. That ends tonight." And then I did it. I reached into my coat pocket and took out the ring box. Not the velvet one from the proposal. No, that one had long since been boxed up. This was a cheap plastic case I got from a vending machine at a truck stop on the way over. It held the actual engagement ring inside. I held it up, and I said, "Since you like vintage so much, here's your antique centerpiece back." Then I opened the box, took out the ring, and dropped it in her half-full champagne glass. There was a clink, a gasp, maybe even a stifled laugh from someone who hated her just enough to enjoy the moment. Mallory just stared at me, mouth slightly open, like her brain hadn't caught up yet. "I'll call a rideshare," I said calmly. "Don't worry. Wouldn't want to damage your image by leaving with your embarrassment." I walked away, and not a single person stopped me. The room was silent in that stunned, frozen way that happens when something real crashes into something fake. I hit the elevator button with a shaking finger. Not from nerves, from adrenaline. From the release of 1,000 swallowed moments I never spoke up about. But I wasn't done with Mallory. Not yet. What came after that rooftop exit would hit even harder. She thought the public humiliation was the worst of it. She was wrong. The elevator ride down felt like an out-of-body experience. It was quiet, sterile, humming with that low corporate buzz that somehow makes your thoughts louder. I stared at my reflection in the brushed metal walls, my fists clenched at my sides, my jaw locked tight like it was holding in a scream. I didn't cry. I thought I might. I wanted to. But something colder took over. Numb resolve. A kind of grief that hadn't found its shape yet. Outside, the night air slapped me back into reality. The city was alive, cabs honking, lights flashing, people laughing just down the block like the world wasn't falling apart. I pulled out my phone to order a ride, but instead, I just stood there, watching the app load, my thumb hovering, frozen again. Something didn't feel finished, and I wasn't sure why. When I finally got home, my apartment felt smaller than it had that morning. I'd only been staying there part-time since moving in with Mallory last year, so it still had that transitional feel, mismatched mugs, unopened mail, and a mattress on a metal frame that made me feel 17 again. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at my phone, and did what every man says he won't do after a breakup. I checked her socials. I hadn't even unfollowed her yet. There she was, already tagged in a group photo from the rooftop party. Smiling, beaming, still holding the champagne glass. Still holding the damn glass with the ring in it. Someone had even commented, "What's in your drink, Mallory? A diamond?" She replied, "Something sparkly, not sure if I'm keeping it, winky face." I stared at those words for a long time. I wasn't angry. I was something worse. I was hollow, like I'd been erased and replaced with a punchline. Like she was rewriting the ending to her story in real time, and I was being cropped out of the last chapter. But then I noticed something. A comment from someone named Tanner Holt. It was short, but it made my stomach twist. Guess the trip's back on then? No emojis. No playfulness. Just implication. I clicked his profile. He looked vaguely familiar. Then I realized. He was one of the guys from the party. The one standing behind her during the punchline. The one with the no-sock loafers. Something about his smug little grin in his profile photo made me scroll deeper. Way deeper than I should have. And then I saw it. A photo from 2 weeks ago. A casual brunch shot. Mallory's hand on his shoulder. His caption read, "When your friend flies in from Chicago just to see you kill it at the board meeting." I recognized her nails. I recognized that scarf. It used to be mine. I sat there, heart pounding, suddenly unable to tell whether I was humiliated because of the party or because I was only one layer of a lie she'd been constructing for months. My mind began racing back through every red flag I had talked myself out of. The late nights at the office. The sudden work trips. The "he's just a friend" lines. I had believed all of it. Because I wanted to. Because I thought love meant giving someone the benefit of the doubt until they burned you with it. But now I was seeing it all in high definition. And for the first time that night, I did feel something hot rise up behind my eyes. I wasn't just someone she used to feel superior. I was someone she kept around to protect her double life. A convenient placeholder fiancé while she built something else behind my back. And if she thought I was going to walk away quietly, fade out like some background character while she rebranded the breakup into some edgy little anecdote for her brunch friends, she was about to learn who I really was. I couldn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just lay on my back in the dark, staring at the ceiling, hearing every sound of my apartment like it was magnified, the humming fridge, the ticking wall clock, the occasional groan of pipes in the walls. It all sounded like judgment. Like the universe trying to decide whether I was the fool or the villain in this story. Around 3:40 a.m., I got out of bed, pulled on a hoodie, and made coffee even though I didn't want any. I sat at the kitchen table with the mug in my hands, not drinking, just holding it like it was some kind of anchor. My phone was face down in front of me, screen dark, but I could feel it vibrating silently with everything left unsaid. Eventually, I flipped it over. Still no texts from Mallory. Not one. She hadn't called, hadn't messaged, hadn't even sent one of those fake apology "can we talk" texts. Nothing. It was like I didn't even exist. Like she'd planned for this to blow up and had simply skipped ahead to the cleanup phase. The silence told me everything I needed to know. And that's when it hit me. Her parents didn't even know we'd broken up. That was the thread I tugged on, and the whole tapestry started unraveling. Mallory's mother, Lorraine, adored me. Too much, honestly. She once mailed me a book about retirement savings for early achievers and called me steady as a diesel engine in her Christmas card. Her father, Kent, was colder, a man who only spoke in golf metaphors, but even he appreciated that I wasn't after their daughter's trust fund. He respected that I worked with my hands, called me a fixer. It used to make me proud. So I called Lorraine. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted someone to confirm I was real. Or maybe I wanted to see just how much of a lie Mallory had built on top of me. She answered on the second ring. Chipper. Cheerful. Too cheerful for someone whose daughter had just been publicly unengaged. "Oh, Waylon. What a surprise," she said. "Mallory just left here yesterday. She told us you two were going ring shopping again soon. Did she say yes to a design?" I froze. My skin went cold. My hand gripped the edge of the table so tight my knuckles cracked. "Lorraine," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Mallory and I broke up. Last night. At her company's party." There was silence. And then a soft, disoriented, "What?" I explained. Not all the ugly details. Not the balcony. Not the ring and the champagne. Just the basics. That we were done. That she humiliated me in front of her colleagues. That I wasn't going to be marrying her. Not now. Not ever. By the end of it, Lorraine was quiet in a different way. Not shocked. More like unsettled. like she already suspected something wasn't right, but had chosen not to see it. She murmured something about, "This doesn't sound like her," and then asked if I'd like to come over for Sunday dinner anyway, just to talk. I declined, but before she hung up, she said something that made my stomach knot. She did mention Tanner again. I asked if he was still her coworker, and she laughed and said, "Oh, he's my backup plan if Waylon ever leaves me." She was joking, of course. I think. She wasn't joking. I knew that now. Mallory had made me the safety net while she rehearsed her future with someone else. And that's when I decided to dig deeper. Not for revenge, not even for closure, but because I needed to understand just how far down the rot went. Because something wasn't adding up. Mallory hadn't just been mocking me behind my back. She had been replacing me. Quietly. Strategically. And she had left a paper trail. It started with the joint spreadsheet. Mallory and I shared a Google sheet for wedding planning. Venue options, estimated costs, guest lists, the whole production. She had insisted on using it to stay organized. But really, I think she wanted control. I wasn't even allowed to edit half the tabs without asking first. I had stopped looking at it weeks ago, after she snapped at me for misspelling hors d'oeuvres. But that night, sitting in the dull glow of my laptop with the rest of the apartment wrapped in silence, I opened it again. Not out of curiosity, out of instinct. I wanted to erase myself from the list. Delete my name. Reclaim some kind of space she'd filled with false promises. But when I opened the sheet, it was gone. Not the whole file, just certain things. The budget tab was now locked. The guest list was replaced with a single row that read, "Pending. TBD." The entire document had been scrubbed within the last 24 hours. At the bottom of the screen, though, I noticed something. A second tab I'd never seen before. It was called Seattle. Just that, Seattle. No notes. No color tags. Just a grid of dates and initials and flight times. I clicked through it, frowning. The data beginning in early August, overlapping perfectly with when she'd claimed she was traveling for brand retreats. But these weren't work trips. They were weekend getaways. Most of the destinations were within a few hours of Seattle, Orcas Island, Leavenworth, Whidbey. Places known for being romantic. And under the guest column, the same two initials kept showing up over and over. T.H. Tanner Holt. It wasn't a list of future trips. It was a record of past ones. She had been logging them, documenting them, managing two relationships like one of her digital campaigns. And I wasn't even the fine print. Suddenly, I remembered that she once asked me to help set up auto backup on her cloud drive, the same night we'd been drinking red wine on her balcony, before things started cracking between us. She was too lazy to manage her folder permissions, so she gave me full access and told me to just make it work. So I opened it. Inside the drive, beneath the layers of perfectly labeled folders, work/clients/holiday 2023/old receipts, there was one named for later. At first, it was empty. But then I saw it, a subfolder labeled personal, do not delete. Classic. I clicked. Inside, screenshots. Dozens of them. Text threads between her and Tanner. Photos. Memes. Little jokes. Voice notes. One clip, only 6 seconds long, showed her laughing in a hotel bed with a room service tray between them. Her hair was wet. Her smile wasn't the one she gave me. Most of the files were time-stamped between October and December, right in the middle of when we were finalizing wedding deposits. Right when she was dragging me to tastings and telling me to wear something nice, because the vendors need to see we're serious. She was building a life with me and test driving another one behind my back. But here's the part that really flipped something inside me. There was one document in the folder titled The Conversation. It was a script. A literal script. Bullet-pointed, emotionally staged, like something out of a PR manual. It outlined how she was planning to break up with me. Step by step. Calm tone. Affirming language. Let him feel heard. Mention that I need space to grow into who I'm meant to be. Do not mention Tanner until 3 weeks after. 3 weeks after. She was scheduling my heartbreak like a brand rollout. That's when I stopped reading. Not because I couldn't take more, but because I had read enough. She thought she was controlling the story. She had no idea how far off-script things were about to go. The Monday after the party, Mallory returned to the city like nothing had happened. I know this because she tagged herself at her favorite cafe, smiling behind a cappuccino with the caption, "Mondays are for mindset." Comments were full of heart emojis and women calling her resilient and goals. None of them knew the truth, not yet. Not about the ring, not about the party, not about Tanner. It was surreal watching her paint her own version of events, like she had rehearsed this breakup in her head so many times she could now perform it from muscle memory. I could almost hear her pitching it to her inner circle. It just didn't feel aligned anymore. We were going in different directions. What she didn't expect was for me to speak. She thought I'd disappear, be too embarrassed, too masculine, to process what had happened out loud. She thought I'd go lick my wounds in silence while she pivoted her public narrative from engaged to empowered. But I'd been silent for too long already. So I posted something. Just one photo, no rant, no anger. A photo I took the night before I proposed. We were at a lake cabin. She was sitting on the dock, feet in the water, the sunset spilling across her shoulders. I'd taken it from behind. It was candid, peaceful, and heartbreakingly unaware. I wrote, "This was the night I decided to ask her to marry me. I wish I had known she was already planning how to leave." The post exploded. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. People knew. Her coworkers started connecting dots. People who were at the party began DMing me, asking if I was okay, saying they'd had a weird feeling about her comments that night. One of her interns, a guy I barely remembered, messaged me to say, "That wasn't fair what she did to you." A lot of us saw it. No one had the guts to say anything. And then came the text from Mallory. "Mallory, what are you doing?" "Mallory, this is petty, Waylon. I thought you were more mature." "Mallory, you don't have to try to ruin me just because things didn't work out." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because what happened next wasn't about me. It was about the persona she'd so carefully curated beginning to split at the seams. Her boss reached out. Someone had sent them a screen recording of her mocking me at the party. It didn't violate any corporate policy, but it sure didn't look good. Especially not for someone who championed herself as a values-forward female leader. Then, on Wednesday, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Tanner. At first, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. And I'll never forget what he said. "I didn't know," he started. "I mean, I knew she was engaged. But she said it was ending. That it was already basically over." I said nothing. "She made it sound like you were some controlling guy, that you wouldn't let her go, that you'd spiral if she left." That made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was terrifying. That she could recast me so effortlessly into the villain of her next story. That while I was out here trying to heal, she was already pre-writing her justification to whoever came next. Tanner sighed. "I broke it off with her. Just so you know. I'm not trying to be part of this." I thanked him. Not because he deserved it, but because it felt like closing a window I didn't know had been open. And here's the truth I hadn't said out loud yet. Not to myself, not to anyone. I didn't want her back, but I wanted her to know what it felt like to be disposable, to be rewritten, to be humiliated with a smile and a champagne flute. I wanted her to feel the sting of being minimized. And that's exactly what she felt when her parents, Lorraine and Kent, called her and said they were disappointed. That they were proud of how I carried myself. That maybe, just maybe, she should spend a little more time figuring out why every story she tells ends with someone else being the villain. Mallory didn't lose her job. She didn't lose her condo. But she lost the version of herself that everyone else believed in. And that was something no PR strategy could fix. It's been 5 weeks since that night on the rooftop. Funny how time doesn't heal everything. But it does hand you a mirror and ask, now what? The thing is, I didn't want revenge. Not really. Not deep down. I didn't want to destroy Mallory, or embarrass her, or keep pulling at the same thread until we both unraveled. What I wanted, what I needed, was something much quieter. To be seen. To reclaim the version of myself she tried to edit out of her story. To stand in the wreckage and decide not to be ashamed. And that's what I did. The week after everything blew up, I quit the side job that had been draining me for months. I picked up 2 freelance contracts with small-town refrigeration businesses that needed help. More hours in the field, less behind a desk. I started waking up before sunrise again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I called up old friends I hadn't talked to in over a year. Guys Mallory had gently pulled me away from because they were too negative. We went fishing, ate garbage food, laughed so hard I almost forgot what it felt like to be laughed at. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. Not poetry or anything flowery, just real, honest stories about small people doing quiet things that mattered. I didn't share them. They were just for me. But it felt like I was breathing into parts of myself that had gone stale. And then, something unexpected happened. I got a message from someone named Harper, a woman I hadn't spoken to since high school. She'd seen the post I made, the one with the lake photo and the caption about betrayal. She told me it hit her like a freight train. Said she'd been through something similar. Said if I ever wanted to grab coffee and talk, really talk, she'd be there. I hesitated for days. And then I said yes. We met last Saturday. No pressure. No expectations. Just two people who knew how it felt to be replaced while still trying to hold on to their dignity. We talked for 4 hours. Not about pain, but about resilience. About the weird things heartbreak teaches you. About how trust, when broken, doesn't just change how you see others, it changes how you see yourself. And you know what? She didn't flinch when I told her I fix walk-in freezers. She said, "That's badass. Most people wouldn't last an hour in a walk-in, and you work in one." That's when I knew something had changed in me. Not in the world. Not in women. Not in fate. In me. Because I didn't need Mallory to validate who I was anymore. I didn't need anyone to. So here I am. Still single. Still working class. Still figuring things out. But I sleep better now. I laugh easier. I take up space in my own life instead of shrinking into someone else's idea of who I should be. And if you've made it this far in the story, maybe you needed to hear this too. You are not less because someone couldn't see your worth. You are not broken because someone chose a flashier lie over your steady truth. You are not behind. You are becoming. Mallory lost a good man. But I finally found one. Me.